Hello everyone, we are Geeks Not Nerds. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Vince.
And Vince, today's question comes from LaserDude99, who asks, are there any stories that can't be told on film? That can't be told in the movie format, in the movie... what do you call it?
Medium?
Medium. Thank you. Well, we see, Vince and I, before the show, had a conversation
genre
about medium versus genre, and the fact that in school, when we were both English majors, they would call each medium genre. So it would be like screenwriting is a genre of writing.
Short fiction is a genre. Poetry is a genre.
But then you'd go into fiction writing class, and they would, like, dog on genre fiction. And then you'd be like, oh, so I guess genre means two different things depending on... Anyway, so that's a long explanation for why I couldn't think of the word medium. Vince, why don't you kick it off, shall we?
See, the thing I like about mediums is that they can channel spirits. That's... Oh, wait, there's another word, medium. It's... You know, the thing I like about medium is that it's neither large nor small.
And now we'll talk about range. No. Vince, go ahead and kick us off. So, like we often like to do, just give me a quick short answer and then expound upon it. Do you think there are stories that can't really be told on film?
Yes.
Okay.
Do I think that a story could not possibly be written with a length that would be justified for telling that story? Yeah, whatever. I think you could potentially completely, 100% faithfully adapt a novel to film. It doesn't necessarily...
Would you want to?
Yeah, would you want to sit there for 20 hours and watch a movie? Then it becomes an issue of becoming a TV series. Would you come back week after week and watch it, or would you want something that's, you know, all next to each other? Because there is a difference between watching or reading something serialized and watching a cohesive piece.
I think it's interesting that LaserDude, the way he worded it, I think it's interesting that he asked, are there stories that can't be told on film, as opposed to, are there stories that can't be adapted to film? Because if the question was, do you think that there are stories that cannot be adapted to film, I would say no. I would say that I think most things can be adapted to film.
You just got to tweak the story to where you have the essential things going up.
Precisely, yeah. And sometimes you have to... Some things require, you know, some stories require more tweaking, as you put it, than others, where sometimes it becomes a drastically different thing, where it still has the nuts and bolts of what it was, but, like the experience is very different. And frankly, that's okay, because the experience of watching a film versus reading a book is going to be different.
You know, there's lots... See, the problem with trying to do an adaptation a lot of the time is that they have time restraints, they have budget restraints that they can't do certain things that were done in the source material.
Right.
So it becomes harder to adapt things faithfully.
Maybe it would be fair to even go as far as to say... And we're just going to have to explore this topic a little bit. Maybe it would be fair to say that you could adapt... That it is possible to adapt a movie or a book to a film where it works, but you wouldn't have enough of an appreciation for it if you hadn't read the source material.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not sure I could say 100%... I'm not sure, Vince, that I could say 100% that you could adapt anything to film and make it palatable for anyone that has not read the book. I'm not sure if I could go that far.
You know, a lot of people, they find it unpalatable when they try to do that. So they say, well, the book was better. I'm like, well, it's not a book. I'm sorry. It's different. It's a different beast.
I think almost universally when someone says that, they really mean... I appreciated getting more time with those characters, and in the film medium, it is completely impossible to get as much time with a character as I did in the book.
Or maybe they're just proud of themselves because they read the book instead of just finding out that this thing exists because of the movie. Like I read the book Water for Elephants before the movie came out. Whoop-de-doo. I don't care. I saw the movie and enjoyed the movie.
Let's go away from books and go to some other places. A lot of people, and I think we've done whole talks on this, think that we will never see a good video game adaptation. That maybe there are stories there that are being told in the video game medium that only work in the video game medium.
I would say that Silent Hill was a decent one. Not the one that just came out. I think it already came out. Whatever. Not the new one. I haven't seen it. I don't know. The older one, the one that came out a few years ago, it was pretty solid. I mean, that's the thing, is that a lot of video game adaptations are about video games that don't have a big cohesive story or don't have character arcs, and it's just stuff happening and people trying to escape or people trying to beat someone down.
But that's actually the reason I bring that up, Vince, because what you're talking about are things that aren't really stories yet, that can then be turned into a story. What I'm talking about are the video games that actually do have a good cohesive story that then they would try to adapt into another good cohesive story. You know what the topic is about. Could you take a really good video game story? Could you take Arkham City? Could you take I'm trying to think
God of War.
Right. Well, I'm not sure that's the best example. But I mean, like, what am I trying to think? Things that they're actually talking about. Assassin's Creed, for instance, that's in the works.
And they do have a feature of that. I think it's animated. I think.
No, but they're working on a live action feature that's about to happen. I forget if it's that or another thing that Fassbender's in, but there's some major talent about to be in that. But anyway, I'm just saying that can you take like a really good video game plot that was specifically made for the experience of interaction and then make that into a film? Because I think it's possible that something huge gets lost in translation there.
You know, there's a lot of games that I feel are trying to be more cinematic than they are being. Like, I feel like you could make an Uncharted movie.
Okay.
Because there's lots of cutscenes. There's lots and lots of cutscenes and things. Especially Assassin's Creed. There's lots of cutscenes. So really, you're just playing the time in between the cutscenes. I feel like they use the cutscenes to drive the story, and then they use you to get from cutscene to cutscene. Which is not necessarily a bad thing, but it does add credence to the idea that you could make a movie out of a video game.
Sure, absolutely. Although, and I know I go to this a lot, but I just don't play a lot of modern games. I still feel like, and I don't think anybody would ever try this, but I still feel like Arkham City would be hard. That was a game that I didn't feel like I was just playing in between the cutscenes, where I felt like a lot of the story was happening while I was playing.
You know, a part of the problem, or not problem, but part of the issue is that a lot of them are pretty big, sweeping things.
Yeah, exactly.
There's lots of story that goes... I mean, you have 20, 30 levels in a game, and suddenly you have a lot of story. That
feels more like several episodes of a television series, right?
Yeah,
as opposed to just maybe a movie.
Or you could do a novelization of the game, or you could do a comic book, considering you could go quite a long time with a comic book.
I guess what we're mostly saying, then, is that a lot of it just has to do with scope.
Yeah.
So, like, So let's actually generalize this even more, shall we? Usually we try to like get more specific. This time, let's go this way, and because the question just said film. So you know, basically what we're saying is, yeah, you could adapt most of the things we're talking about, or really all the things we're talking about, to film. It would just take longer. So you make it a TV show or you make it a miniseries, you know what I mean? But you can still put it on the screen. It's just that you couldn't just put it in a 2-hour movie. Are there any stories that you couldn't put on film? That you couldn't adapt if you had all the resources in the world, all the hours to put it on screen, that it would not be watchable if you put it on screen?
I forget the man's name at the moment, but I was speaking with a novelist for a little while, and it was kind of cool that he was giving me pointers and he was just give me information. But the big thing that he wanted to impart upon me was if you're going to write something in any medium, make sure that it deserves to be in that medium. So if you're going to write a play, write a play. Make sure that it's a story that deserves to be a play. Because there are differences between the mediums.
That is the best advice you can possibly give a person. You don't want to write what in your head is a comic book as a short story. It'll never work.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, that's the thing, is that if it has to be visual, then it has to be visual. You're not going to write slapstick prose. it's just not going to work.
Or if you do, it will be bad.
It comes off strange. I've seen it done. It's really weird.
Yeah.
It's not funny. What it is awkward.
Yeah, we've talked about that.
Or you have to sit there and go, all right, I see it happening. Timing and prose. Oh, you're so funny.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
It doesn't work. But I do think there are things, like, I think it really depends on scope, because if you're going to write a play, you could not write a play that has lots and lots of locations, lots and lots of scenes. I mean, if you're writing, here's an example. Let's say, I've seen lots of plays adapted to film. The trouble is that you have to have something really, really psychologically interesting for that to work on screen, because,
or
a
entertaining
scene
in some other way, right?
Yeah, a scene is usually a page in a screenplay. But when you look at a stage play, the trouble is that one page goes by and you're still in the same place. Why? Because you're on a stage. Unless you're super rich or have a super rich backer and have varying different scenes, you just can't do it. It's not feasible. So I do think there are things that either don't deserve to be on screen, or there are ideas that are suited for strictly certain mediums.
Yeah, well, it's sort of like what we say with reviews and who reviews the reviewers, right? Where if you don't have enough going on the screen, your content better be amazing.
Yeah.
So it's that sort of thing. Yeah. So maybe, I mean, it's almost like we're changing the question around. Maybe it's more like, well, maybe it could be, but does it deserve to be? You know?
Yeah. I really think
should
it's
it
true.
be done?
There are things that should not be movies, and there are things. I feel like more often people nowadays have more interest in movies, therefore a lot of their ideas have the scope that would be appropriate for movies. Not necessarily that that's a good thing. It's
well,
just,
how many
I feel
people,
that's a trend.
Vince? Yeah, you're absolutely right. How many people did we go to school with who were in a class where they had to write a play or they had to write short fiction, where they obviously wanted to write a movie, so they wrote a movie.
Yeah.
And it didn't work in that medium, but they didn't care because in their head they were not imagining stage or they were not imagining, prose. They were imagining a movie, and so all those rules go out the window.
Yeah, they have like 20 people in a cast for a 15-minute play.
Or remember there was one script, and I mean I wouldn't name names, but I also don't remember who this was. But do you remember when we were in a playwriting class? I think it was the first one we took together. I think it was like the first couple weeks you and I knew each other. There was I know. Try to think back that far, Vince. Do you remember the guy who wrote the short play that jumped around to like different locations every like page and a half? And like it was clearly a movie script, but it was supposed to be on stage, and I was just like, how do the scenes change? Like, how does this even work? And clearly he didn't want to be in a playwriting class. He wanted to be in a screenwriting class, and he didn't get to. So he wrote a screenplay.
There is a way to do it. I mean, if you look at the Laramie Project, they even have it's minimalist. So really, you.
Well,
have
what he
no
did wasn't
costumes.
minimalist because he was also he also had like explosions and things written in the script. You know what I mean? Like. and I mean, like I remember a lot of people immediately were just like, how does that work on stage? What are you gonna do?
Well, first of all, we're gonna kill the audience. It's gonna be a huge explosion. Everyone's gonna die.
He would describe like these elaborate sets where people would walk from one room to another at the same time. You know what I mean? Where like the sets didn't even change. You just like walked from one room. It was like, how are you gonna do that? Like,
I've seen it done, but it's just impractical. Like it's a revolving stage with like a house built on it that doesn't have outer walls.
But clearly he wasn't thinking about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's kind of hard to do that. I mean, well, I guess it's not hard. It's not hard to envision it, but it's just not something that is conducive to a typical play.
So yeah, I mean, I think it's like, and I'm sure we've talked about this a bunch of times. You just have to, whatever you're writing has to fit in the medium that you're writing for. So, yeah, I think that there are definitely long novels that get made into films that are so bare bones.
Mm-hmm. Oh man, and some of them are part of film canon, regardless of whether or not they're very interesting.
Isn't that really interesting, Vince? Where it seems like what happens there is the book was great, so the movie must be great, even if it's not.
You know, I think there's a lot of interesting psychological stuff that's going on, or not necessarily psychological, but there's a lot of dramatic action, rather, that's what I meant to say. There's a lot of interesting dramatic action in Dr. Zhivago, but it's hugely dull.
Is it?
It's extremely dull, and it's extremely long, and it's based on a novel, so of course it's going to be long. But
well, there is such a thing as movie pacing, right? I mean, like there's different ways to pace a film. Obviously, you know, just because something is slow paced doesn't make it uninteresting. You know what I mean? Like slow paced doesn't mean not well paced. You know, I think that's very important to keep in mind. And so, but the way that things are paced in a visual medium is different than the way that they're paced in a non-visual medium, regardless of the very broad range of kinds of pacing you can do in both.
You know, I just had this thought. Like, for example, you could even say that there's a difference between a feature and then a short. So,
right, yeah.
Like, if you have an idea, I've seen people make this mistake. Where
That's a great point. So there are certainly things, there are certainly things that you can't adapt to short.
Yeah. I mean, there are some things, if you have lots and lots of plot, you probably shouldn't be writing a short piece.
20 minutes.
You should probably be writing a feature. But if you have something that has loads and loads of dialogue and maybe one plot point throughout the entire thing, maybe you should be writing a short feature.
And maybe you should learn to pare things down.
Indeed. I mean, it's about looking at what's important. You prioritize your story and then say, well, this really only has 2 moments in there that are worthwhile. And I could write a 10-minute play or a 15-minute short film, and it would be well served.
Yeah, and it'll be well received. But if you take those couple things that are really good and you put them in something longer, somebody's going to watch that and go, "Well, there's those 2 points I really liked, but everything else I could have done without."
Yeah.
So I don't know. I guess where I'm going to come down on this, the long answer is takes a while to talk about. The short answer, you know what I mean? Like, there's not an easy answer, but the short answer is maybe there isn't anything that can't be put on screen, but you got to know, like, how long it needs to be, what kind of pacing it ought to be.
Yeah, I think in my head it makes more sense to be open to mediums.
I think so too, yeah.
To say to yourself, all right, this is my idea.
You mean put it in the best medium it's served for.
Exactly. You have an idea that maybe it's extremely big in scope. Maybe if you are trying to write a feature film that is not visually based, but there's just a giant scope, maybe it won't fit in a feature. Maybe you should write a novel. Maybe you should write a novella if it's a little too short to be a novel. I mean, come on. There's ways to handle it.
I'm not a giant fan. I like the Lord of the Rings franchise. I like it. I think they're good films. But those stories will always be better in books. I don't even really like reading those books very much. But what he was trying to do was create this giant universe and tell you as much as he could about the world he created. And that was the point of it, was mythos, creating mythos. And so the movies tell a good story, but those books weren't just about storytelling. They were also about creating this very, very thick, rich world. That always will make more sense in a series of books than a series of films. That's just one example.
And then you have things like Dungeons and Dragons. They get born out of it because it's huge and vast, kind of like the comic vault.
And ominous. And a wonderland. Anyway,
it makes you do this.
Well, you have anything else to add? I think I'm finished.
No, I feel like if you're writing a piece, you should choose a genre that really fits it, because...
and learn how to write in that genre.
Yeah, I mean, there are rules. I mean, you can't just arbitrarily choose to write it in a genre, but that's my point, is there are rules to writing in genres, or excuse me, mediums here. there are rules...
Whatever it is, right.
There are rules to writing in a medium, so learn the rules of whichever mediums you're interested in, and then figure it out. Because it makes sense to say... There's a lot of dialogue. There are very few places. I'm going to write a 10-minute play.
It seems like we kind of took this and made it more about... Like it sounds like we're talking, by the end of this, more to people that are thinking about writing something, which is interesting, because that's not where this started. But... If we are giving any kind of writing advice here, I'm going to say this, and I know I said I'm done, but then you said that, and that sparked something, and I want to say this real quick. I at one point thought that I was only interested in certain mediums of writing, and as I went on in school and when I graduated, I had done everything. I had tried. The only genre I didn't... the only medium genre I didn't try it all, and I don't think you did either, was creative nonfiction. The only thing that was the only thing I never tried.
That was intimidating to me.
Yeah, it was for me too. I was always curious about it, but I never did it. I didn't want to do poetry. I took poetry my last semester because I needed another hour someplace, and you know, I needed another class someplace, and I just took poetry because it was open, and I ended up really glad that I did. Be really open-minded to different genres. If you have a great story to tell and you think you know what you want it to be and it's not working in that genre, don't, and like Vince said, don't just write in another genre if you don't understand it. Learn how to do it. You know what I mean? Get good books. Find out what the best books about screenwriting are, about playwriting, about short fiction, about novels, or take a class, take a workshop, whatever you can find, and learn how to write it in that, because you know, it'll be much better served for that. I have definitely tried to write things that it turned out it was better in a different, you know, in a different medium, and was really glad that I learned how to do it. So it's just, be open-minded. You know, you might not be immediately prone to a certain kind of thing, and I realized I enjoyed writing poems. Poetry is not my thing. I don't like to read it, but I discovered, well, but I got a new appreciation for it too. You know, so yeah, just be open, I think.
You know, I find that it depends on the poem. Really, it depends on the poet. I took a class on modern British literature. And we spent quite a lot of time on like Lord Byron and Keats, and I was annoyed. I hated all of that so much. And then we got to one guy that I knew I was going to be interested in, Alfred Lord Tennyson. I was all jazzed about it.
You didn't like it.
And then we get there, and the teacher says, "Well, it's technically in the curriculum, but we're going to ignore it because I really don't like Tennyson." And I'm like, "Mother!" I got so annoyed.
I don't like it when professors do that, when they're like, "I'm not interested in this, so you shouldn't be either."
Yeah, I dropped the class. I was like, I'm done with this.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I took modern Australian literature instead.
I'm sure Tennyson was very pleased. You dropped the course for him.
Oh God, it was so... I could tell you other reasons that I dropped the course that I'm not going to share on this show.
Well, we'll talk about it after the show, yeah. Well, everybody, thanks as always for watching Geeks Not Nerds, and we're going to very soon be doing the multi-topic extravaganza.
Lots of them.
Yeah.
Fast.
Yeah,
it's ominous too.
I'll tell you this. We have already shot another Geeks Not Nerds, but after that episode, we will be doing the multi-topic extravaganza. And the way that works, if you haven't seen it before, is it's a Q&A basically. So feel free to leave us questions here. And again, we won't be starting this right away, but if you want to go ahead and start leaving us questions, feel free to. And what we do with it is we briefly, or sometimes not so briefly, answer questions on a half-hour program. And
then decide to make it into an actual podcast.
Yeah, that happens sometimes too. Yeah, we get a lot of mileage out of the multi-topic extravaganza. And what we do is we do a series of half-hour GNNs, and then what we also do is we take topics that people have given us in the past that they want us to do whole videos on, that we can't do a whole video on, but that we're still interested in talking about. Feel free to leave as many questions as you'd like to. Please don't be upset or offended if we don't get to all of them. We do our very best and get to as many as we possibly can in a few weeks. Usually we do 4 or 5 of these, and it's been a good long time. I don't think we've done this in a year or more. So yeah. Multi-topic extravaganza coming up very soon on Geekvolution. Once again, we really appreciate you watching. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Vince, reminding you to support your local comic book store.
See you next time.